My twins accidentally called their biological billionaire father when I collapsed. Problem is, he was the reason I raised them alone. Our mommy won't wake up. The words cut through the phone line like broken glass. Caleb Hartwell stood in his penthouse, the glass walls reflecting the sleeping city below, staring at his phone as if it had become something dangerous. 2 children were crying on the other end. 2 voices he had never heard before but somehow recognized in a way that made his chest constrict. She said to call you if she didn't, one of them said, the words tumbling out between sobs. Before we dive into this devastating revelation, subscribe to the channel so you're always first to know when we expose the truth. Hit like if you're ready for the next shocking discovery, and comment where you're watching from, New York, Atlanta, or maybe Dallas. Alright, let's continue with Caleb. Caleb's hand tightened around the phone. His private line. The number only 3 people in the world had access to. And apparently, one woman he thought had vanished from his life 6 years ago without a trace. You sound like him, a small voice whispered. The man in the picture's mommy hides. His heart stopped. Are you the man who made mommy cry? The question hung in the air, innocent and devastating. Caleb looked down at his hands, the same hands that had signed contracts worth billions, the same hands that had let Nia Brooks walk out of his life because he had been too much of a coward to stand up to his family. His fingers trembled. These children, these terrified small voices reaching through the darkness because their mother had collapsed and they had no one else, were speaking to him like he was supposed to know what to do. Like he was supposed to matter. Please, the other voice said, steadier now despite the fear. She's breathing but she won't wake up. The address is. Caleb was already moving, grabbing his coat, his keys, his entire world narrowing to a single point of focus. He kept the line open as he ran to the elevator, the sound of their breathing the only thing anchoring him to reality. He heard one twin whisper to the other, "Do you think he's really coming?" "I don't know. Mommy said he doesn't come for people like us." The elevator doors closed. Caleb Hartwell, the man who dismantled failing companies without mercy, the man who believed control was the only currency that mattered, felt something inside him crack and split open. Because the math was simple. 6 years ago, Nia had disappeared. 6 years ago, his mother had smiled at him over breakfast and said, she understood. She left quietly. It's better this way. And now 2 children, the exact ages that would align perfectly with that timeline, were calling him because the woman he had loved and failed had finally run out of strength to carry the weight of his silence. The truth was unavoidable. And as his car tore through the empty streets toward an address in a neighborhood he had never visited, Caleb realized that the emergency contact in Nia's phone was not an invitation. It was an indictment. He had not thought about Nia Brooks in years. Or rather, he had trained himself not to. But now, racing through red lights with 2 children's voices still echoing in his ears, every memory he had buried came flooding back with the force of a dam breaking. Caleb Hartwell had built an empire on the principle that emotion was a liability. At 34, he was known in financial circles as the surgeon. Not because he healed companies, but because he knew exactly where to cut. Failing businesses, bleeding capital, drowning in sentiment and poor leadership. He bought them, stripped them down to their profitable bones, and sold what remained. Efficient. Clean. Profitable. He had learned early that attachment was weakness. His father had taught him that before the old man died, leaving Caleb a fortune and a mandate: build legacy. Protect the name. Never let anyone compromise what we've built. His mother had refined the lesson: love is a choice, darling. Choose carefully, or it will choose for you. The steering wheel creaked under his grip. Nia had not fit into that world. He had known it from the first night he saw her at a fundraiser, standing near the catering entrance in a dress that was elegant but not designer, talking to one of the servers like they were equals. She had been there on a scholarship committee invite, representing some non-profit he could not even remember now. She had looked at the roomful of wealth with an expression that was not impressed or intimidated. Just observant. That had intrigued him. Their first conversation had lasted 3 hours. She was intelligent in a way that did not perform itself, grounded in a way that made everyone around her seem like they were playing dress-up. She worked in urban development, believed in systems change, talked about housing policy and food deserts with the same passion his colleagues reserved for quarterly earnings. She had made him feel like he was more than his last acquisition. A car horn blared. Caleb swerved, his jaw clenched. For 2 years, they had existed in a strange liminal space. He would take her to dinners where she was the only person without a trust fund. She would take him to community meetings where he was the only person in a suit that cost more than someone's rent. His world had tolerated her. Barely. His mother's smile had grown thinner each time Nia's name came up. Not right for the family, darling. You understand. Image matters. She's lovely, but she doesn't understand our world. She would be a liability. Think of the optics. Think of the legacy. His colleagues had been more direct. She doesn't fit, Caleb. You know it. We know it. Eventually, she'll know it too. And his father's business partner, the man who had helped build the Hartwell empire, had said it plainest: men like us don't marry women like her. We mentor them, we fund their causes, but we don't bring them into the family. It dilutes everything. Caleb had told himself he did not care what they thought. But he had never defended her either. Not when his mother began excluding her from family events. Not when invitations arrived addressed only to him. Not when business dinners became boys-only affairs and Nia stopped being introduced as his partner, just as Nia, a friend of the family. The night she left, there had been no fight. No dramatic confrontation. He had come home to an empty apartment and a note on the counter. I can't keep disappearing in your world while you watch it happen. He had read it once. Then he had folded it, placed it in a drawer, and poured himself a drink. She had chosen to leave. That was how he framed it. She could not handle the pressure. She was not built for his life. It was better this way. Cleaner. His mother had confirmed it over breakfast a week later, her voice smooth and reassuring. She understood, darling. These things happen. She left quietly. No mess. It's better for everyone. Caleb had nodded. Returned to work. Closed another deal. Moved on. The hospital loomed ahead, harsh fluorescent lights bleeding into the night. His hands were shaking again. Because now, 6 years later, the math was screaming at him. Nia had not just left. She had fled. And she had been carrying something he had never been told about. Two someones. Children who had his eyes, his voice, his blood. And he had let her go without asking why. He had believed the silence because silence was easier than accountability. He had accepted the narrative his family provided because it absolved him of responsibility. He had told himself she chose to leave because the alternative was admitting he had chosen not to fight for her. Caleb pulled into the hospital parking lot, the engine ticking as it cooled. Through the glass doors, he could see people moving. Nurses. Doctors. And somewhere inside, two children who had called him because they had no one else. Two children who existed because he had loved someone once and then stood by while his world made her disappear. He stepped out of the car. The air was cold. The night was silent. And for the first time in 6 years, Caleb Hartwell was about to face the cost of never looking back. The hospital waiting room smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. Harsh fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly white glow that made the plastic chairs look even more unwelcoming than they were. Caleb stood in the doorway, his expensive shoes silent on the linoleum, and felt the air leave his lungs. Two children sat pressed together in chairs too big for them, their legs dangling, not quite reaching the floor. They wore mismatched pajamas. The girl on the left had her arm wrapped around the boy, who was clutching a stuffed elephant with one ear missing. They were small. So impossibly small. And they were staring directly at him. The girl spoke first. "You came." Her voice carried surprise, as if adults keeping promises was something unusual in her world. Caleb took a step forward, then stopped, suddenly uncertain of how to approach children. His children. The thought felt foreign and sharp in his chest. "You sound different in person," the boy said, tilting his head. "But it's the same voice." From the phone. Caleb crouched down, bringing himself to their eye level. His knees protested. When was the last time he had knelt for anyone? "What are your names?" "I'm Amara," the girl said. She pointed to her brother. "He's Zane. We're 6. Our birthday was last month. Mommy made us pancakes even though she was tired." The detail landed like a punch. Even though she was tired. How many times had Nia been tired? How many birthdays had she celebrated alone, making pancakes for children who should have had two parents? Zane studied him with unsettling intensity. "You have green eyes. Like us." Caleb looked at them properly now. Really looked. Their eyes were not just green. They were his exact shade. Moss after rain, his mother used to say when he was young, before she had learned to weaponize her words. The shape of their jaws. The way Amara's left eyebrow raised slightly higher than her right when she was thinking. The way Zane rubbed his palms together when he was anxious, exactly like Caleb did before board meetings. Genetics did not lie. "You look like the man in Mommy's pictures," Amara said quietly. "She has a box under her bed. She thinks we don't know about it. But sometimes at night when she can't sleep, she takes it out and looks at the photos. She cries very quietly." Caleb's throat constricted. "Are you the man who made Mommy cry?" Zane asked. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the elephant tighter. The question hung in the sterile air between them. How did you answer something like that to a 6-year-old? How did you explain that you had loved their mother but not enough? That you had let her be erased because standing up for her would have been inconvenient? Where is she? Caleb asked instead, his voice rough. Your mother. Where is Nia? The doctors are with her. Amara's composure cracked slightly. She fell down and wouldn't wake up. We tried shaking her but she just kept breathing funny. Like this. She demonstrated, taking short, shallow breaths. You did the right thing calling me, Caleb said, though the words felt hollow. You were very brave. Mommy said brave is just scared but doing it anyway, Zane offered. Your mother is right. A doctor emerged from the hallway, clipboard in hand, looking exhausted. She glanced between Caleb and the children, making quick calculations. You're the emergency contact. Caleb Hartwell. Yes. How is she? The doctor gestured for him to step aside, but Amara stood up. We want to hear too. She's our mommy. The doctor hesitated, then softened. Your mother is stable. She collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration. Her blood pressure was dangerously low. We're running more tests, but it appears she's been neglecting her health for some time. Neglecting. The word was clinical, but Caleb heard what it really meant. Surviving. Choosing her children over herself. Pushing through because there was no other option. The doctor turned to Caleb. She has you listed as her emergency contact and next of kin. We'll need you to sign some consent forms for treatment. You're also listed as the father on both birth certificates. The world tilted. Both birth certificates. So Nia had named him. Even after everything. Even after his family had pushed her out and he had let it happen. She had written his name on legal documents, had kept him as the emergency contact, had told her children to call him if anything ever happened. Why? Mr. Hartwell. The doctor was waiting, pen extended. Caleb's hand shook as he took it. His signature looked foreign on the page. Legal authority granted before emotional readiness. Power assigned before trust earned. Can we see her? Amara asked. Soon, the doctor said gently. She needs rest right now. After the doctor left, Caleb stood in the hallway, the twins watching him with expressions too old for their faces. They knew more than children should. They had seen their mother struggle. They had learned to be brave when they should have been allowed to just be children. Are you really our dad? Zane asked. Not angry. Not accusing. Just needing to know. Caleb looked at them. At the green eyes. At the way they held each other up. At the evidence written in their faces. Yes, he said. The word felt like stepping off a cliff. I am. Amara nodded slowly. Then you don't get to disappear again. Mommy disappears sometimes. In her head. When she's sad. But you don't get to do that. Okay. 6 years old and already demanding accountability that adults had spent lifetimes avoiding. Okay, Caleb whispered. And in that moment, surrounded by harsh lights and antiseptic smell and 2 children who had called him because they had no one else, Caleb Hartwell realized that everything he thought he controlled had been an illusion. The only truth that mattered was standing right in front of him. The twins fell asleep just after midnight, curled together on a vinyl couch in the family waiting area. Zane's head rested on Amara's shoulder, the stuffed elephant trapped between them. Someone had brought them hospital blankets, thin and scratchy, but they slept anyway. The kind of sleep that came from pure exhaustion. Caleb sat across from them, his expensive suit jacket draped over a chair, his tie loosened. He had not moved in 40 minutes. Just watched them breathe. Their faces relaxed in sleep, and he could see it even more clearly now. The shape of his father's nose. His mother's high cheekbones. The Hartwell jaw that photographs well in boardrooms and family portraits. These children carried his bloodline in every feature, undeniable and unignorable. The timeline assembled itself in his mind with brutal efficiency. 6 years and 7 months ago, Nia had left. No, not left. Been pushed out. Disappeared. And if the twins had just turned 6 last month, that meant she had been 8 weeks pregnant when she walked away. Maybe she had known. Maybe she had suspected. Maybe that was why she finally ran, because bringing children into his world would have made her even more vulnerable to his family's cruelty. Caleb leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and pressed his palms against his eyes. He had not asked her to stay. He had not followed her. He had not even called. His guilt was not about action. It was about inaction. About every moment he could have chosen differently and did not. About the silence that had allowed his mother to orchestrate Nia's exit from his life while he convinced himself it was for the best. She had been pregnant and alone, and he had been having breakfast with his mother, accepting her reassurances that everything was handled. Mr. Hartwell. He looked up. A different doctor stood there, younger than the first, with dark circles under her eyes that suggested she was near the end of a long shift. She held a tablet and wore the expression of someone about to deliver news that was medically accurate but personally devastating. Yes. I'm Dr. Okafor. I've been reviewing Ms. Brooks' chart. May I sit? Please. She sat, angling the tablet away from the sleeping children. She paused, searching for the right word. Ms. Brooks is stable, but I want to be frank with you about what we're seeing. Her collapse was not a sudden event. It was the culmination of years of chronic stress, malnutrition, and untreated health issues. Caleb's jaw tightened. What kind of health issues? Anemia. Vitamin deficiencies. High blood pressure that's gone unmanaged. She has scarred tissue on her liver consistent with sustained physical stress. Dr. Okafor's voice remained clinical, but her eyes held something harder. When did she last see a doctor? I don't know. According to her medical history, she hasn't had a physical exam in 4 years. No preventive care. No routine checkups. The last time she was in a hospital was when the twins were born. 4 years. Caleb thought of his own annual executive physicals, the concierge medical service that sent reminders to his phone, the doctors who came to his office if he was too busy to visit them. Why? He asked, though he already knew. Dr. Okafor met his eyes. Because people make choices about what they can afford. And for single mothers working multiple jobs, health care is often the first thing that gets sacrificed. She chose her children's well-being over her own. Repeatedly. Until her body gave her no choice. The words landed with surgical precision. This was not just medical neglect. This was systemic failure. This was poverty dressed up as personal responsibility. This was what happened when someone had to choose between rent and a doctor's appointment, between groceries and prescriptions. This was what his silence had cost. Is she going to be okay? His voice came out rougher than intended. With treatment and rest, yes. But she needs significant lifestyle changes. Reduced stress. Proper nutrition. Consistent medical monitoring. Dr. Okafor glanced at the sleeping children. She needs support. The kind she clearly hasn't had. Caleb nodded, unable to speak. I'll need you to sign additional consent forms. There are some tests we'd like to run, and since you're listed as next of kin. She trailed off, leaving the implication hanging. She handed him the tablet. Page after page of medical authorizations. His name already populated in the fields. Father. Emergency contact. Responsible party. His hand shook as he signed. Each signature felt like a judgment. Legal recognition arriving years too late. Authority granted not through earned trust but through biological fact and bureaucratic default. He was being given power over Nia's medical decisions because the system prioritized his name on a form over the 6 years she had spent keeping their children alive alone. There, at the bottom of the screen. Financial responsibility. The hospital would bill him thousands of dollars in emergency care, tests, treatment. Money that meant nothing to him but would have destroyed Nia. He thought of the unpaid bills the twins had mentioned, the overdue notices they had scrolled past on her phone. How much does she owe? He asked. From before. Previous medical bills. Dr. Okafor hesitated. I can't disclose that without her consent. Roughly. Enough that collections agencies have been calling. The doctor's expression softened slightly. Look, I don't know your situation with Ms. Brooks. But those children worship her. And she's been carrying weight that no one should carry alone. She stood, taking the tablet. We'll let you know when she's awake. Try to get some rest. After she left, Caleb sat in the humming silence of the waiting room. The twins slept on. Somewhere down the hall, Nia lay unconscious, her body finally forcing her to accept the help she had been denied or too proud to ask for. And here he sat. A man who had built empires but had not protected the one person who mattered. A father with legal authority but no earned right to the title. Amara stirred, made a small sound, and Zane instinctively pulled her closer without waking. They had learned to take care of each other because no one else had been there to do it. Caleb's chest ached with something that felt like grief and shame and awakening all at once. Responsibility did not wait for forgiveness. It did not care about readiness. It simply existed, demanding to be met. And he was 6 years late. Nia woke to the sound of her children breathing. Not the labored, frightened breathing from the living room. Not the panicked sobs that had been the last thing she heard before the darkness took her. Just the steady, peaceful rhythm of sleep. For a moment, still suspended between unconsciousness and awareness, she let herself believe everything was fine. Then she opened her eyes. Hospital room. 4 in her arm. Morning light bleeding through industrial blinds. And there, in a chair pulled close to the bed where Amara and Zane slept tangled together under blankets, sat Caleb Hartwell. Terror hit her before anything else. Not anger. Not surprise. Pure, primal fear that made her heart rate spike enough that the monitor beeped in alarm. Because Caleb sitting beside her children meant everything she had built could be dismantled. Every wall she had constructed could be torn down. Every protection she had fought for could be stripped away. He looked up at the sound, and their eyes met for the first time in 6 years. Nia. His voice was careful, like he was approaching something wounded. You're awake. She tried to sit up. The four tugged. Her head spun. Where are my children? Right here. Safe. He gestured to the couch. They haven't left. Nia's eyes found them, counted fingers and toes the way she had done every day since they were born. Alive. Breathing. Whole. The panic in her chest eased slightly, then returned with different urgency. You need to leave. Nia, Now. Before they wake up. She kept her voice low, urgent. You can't be here. I'm listed as their father. On the birth certificates. The doctors called me next of kin. I know what the paperwork says. Her hands trembled as she reached for the call button. That doesn't mean you get to just appear in their lives because it's suddenly convenient for you. Convenient? Caleb's voice rose slightly, then dropped when Zane stirred. He leaned closer. Nia, they called me at 3 in the morning because you collapsed. They were terrified. They had no one else. And whose fault is that? The words landed between them like a grenade. Caleb went very still. Say it, Nia continued, her voice shaking now. Say you didn't know. Say you had no idea I was pregnant when I left. Say you would have done something if you had known. I didn't. Your mother knew. Caleb's face went pale. Your mother knew, Nia repeated. She found the pregnancy test in your bathroom trash. I was 8 weeks along. I was going to tell you that weekend. We were supposed to have dinner, remember? The place downtown you kept talking about. She could see him remembering. See the moment clicking into place. She came to my office the day before. Nia's voice remained steady, but her hands gripped the thin hospital blanket. Walked right past security like she owned the building. Maybe she did. I don't know. She sat across from my desk and smiled that smile she has. You know the one. The one that makes you feel like you're being measured and found lacking. Nia, stop. She told me I had 2 choices. The first choice was to disappear quietly. Take a sum of money that would be, and I quote, more than adequate for someone of my background. Sign papers agreeing never to contact you or claim paternity. Never mention the Hartwell name. Raise the baby, she didn't know there would be 2 yet, raise the baby somewhere far away where your world would never have to acknowledge its existence. Caleb stood, paced to the window, his shoulders rigid. And the second choice? His voice was hollow. The second choice was to stay and fight. Which she promised would result in a very public destruction of my career, my reputation, and ultimately my custody of any child. She had lawyers, Caleb. She had documentation ready. Character witnesses prepared to testify that I was unstable, opportunistic, trying to trap you. She had already spoken to my employers, planted seeds of doubt about my competence. That's not possible. My mother wouldn't. Your mother had PI reports on my family going back 3 generations. Nia's voice cracked. She knew about my father's gambling problem from 20 years ago. She knew about my cousin's arrest. She had medical records I didn't even know existed. And she sat there drinking tea from my chipped mug and explained, very calmly, how she would use all of it to prove I was unfit. The monitor beeped faster. Nia forced herself to breathe. She said no judge would give custody to a woman with my background over a Hartwell. That even if by some miracle I won, the legal battle would bankrupt me. That I would spend years fighting and lose anyway, but I would lose with nothing left. No job. No reputation. No child. Caleb turned from the window. His face was stricken. Why didn't you tell me? Because you had already shown me who you would choose. The words were quiet but final. Caleb flinched. Every family dinner I wasn't invited to. Every business event where I suddenly wasn't your partner anymore, just a friend. Every time someone made a comment about fit or image or legacy and you said nothing. You were already erasing me, Caleb. Your mother just gave me a choice about whether to disappear with dignity or be destroyed publicly. I would have fought for you. No. Nia shook her head. You would have wanted to. You might have even tried. But you wouldn't have won. Not against your mother. Not against your entire world. And I couldn't risk my children becoming collateral damage in a war I had no resources to fight. So you left. So I survived. There's a difference. Mommy. They both turned. Amara sat up on the couch, rubbing her eyes. Zayn stirred beside her. Hey, baby. Nia's voice transformed instantly, warm and steady despite the tears on her face. I'm okay. Come here. The twins scrambled off the couch, climbing carefully onto the bed. They fitted themselves on either side of her, and Nia wrapped her arms around them, breathing in the smell of their hair. Did the mean grandmother try to take us? Zayn asked quietly. Nia froze. What? We heard, Amara said. Not all of it. But some. She looked at Caleb. Your mother sounds scary. Caleb crouched beside the bed, eye level with the children again. She was wrong. What she did was very wrong. Are you going to let her be mean to mommy again? Zayn's directness was devastating. No. The word came out fierce. Never again. Promise. I promise. Amara studied him with those two old eyes. Adults break promises sometimes. Mommy told us that. She says people mean well but they forget. Then I'll have to prove it, Caleb said quietly. Not with words. With what I do. Nia looked at him over the twins' heads. Their eyes met, and something passed between them that was not forgiveness, not trust, but perhaps the thinnest possibility of it. She had survived alone because she had no choice. But now her children were watching, waiting to see if the adults in their lives would finally choose truth over convenience. And Nia was too tired to keep carrying everything herself. The social worker arrived before lunch with a clipboard and a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. She introduced herself as Mrs. Chen, asked the twins if they wanted juice boxes from the vending machine, and waited until they left with a nurse before sitting down. "I need to discuss the discharge plan," she said, looking between Nia and Caleb. "Ms. Brooks, you'll need at least a week of rest, possibly 2. The doctor wants to ensure your blood pressure stabilizes before you return to normal activities." Nia nodded, already calculating. A week without work meant a week without pay. 2 weeks meant falling further behind on rent. Her landlord had already sent 2 notices. "Do you have family who can help with the children?" Mrs. Chen asked. "No." Nia's voice was steady. "But I'll manage." Mrs. Chen's pen paused over her notes. "Managing is what got you here, Ms. Brooks. The doctor's report indicates severe chronic stress and neglect of your own health. Child Services requires us to ensure there's adequate support in place before discharge." The words Child Services made Nia's spine go rigid. "I'm their mother. I've taken care of them perfectly fine for 6 years. No one is questioning your devotion." Mrs. Chen's tone softened. "But you collapsed in front of them. They had to call emergency services. That's traumatic for children. We need to ensure it doesn't happen again." Caleb cleared his throat. "I'm their father. I can provide support." Mrs. Chen turned to him, and Nia saw the shift happen in real time. The way the social worker's posture changed. The way her expression moved from professional concern to something more deferential. She had looked up Caleb's name. She knew exactly who he was. "Mr. Hartwell, have you been involved in the children's lives previously?" "No, but that's going to change." His voice carried the same authority he used in boardrooms. "I have resources. I can arrange for in-home care, medical support, whatever they need." Nia felt the room tilting. This was how it happened. How power moved in and reshaped reality without asking permission. How institutions defaulted to wealth and authority over the person who had actually done the work. "That's very generous," Mrs. Chen said, making notes. "And you're listed as the father on the birth certificates, so legally you have equal parental rights." Equal. The word was absurd. He had been absent for 6 years and now had equal rights because a piece of paper said so. "We should discuss living arrangements," Mrs. Chen continued. "Ms. Brooks, will you be returning to your current residence?" "Yes. I have a property that would be more suitable," Caleb interjected. "More space. Better neighborhood. Medical staff on call if needed." Nia's hands clenched. "No." Caleb turned to her. "Nia, be reasonable. You need help. I need rest. I don't need to be relocated like I'm being managed. I'm trying to help. By taking over. By deciding what's best without asking me." She kept her voice low, aware of hospital staff passing in the hallway. "That's not help, Caleb. That's control dressed up in concern." Mrs. Chen shifted uncomfortably. "Perhaps we should focus on what's best for the children." "The children are best with their mother," Nia said firmly. "In their home. With their routine. Not uprooted because someone with money decided to show up." "Someone who is their father," Caleb shot back. "Someone who has the means to make sure you don't end up back in this hospital." The means. Always the means. As if money solved everything. As if his wealth made him qualified to parent children he had met 18 hours ago. Mrs. Chen stood. I'll give you both some time to discuss this. But I'll need a clear plan before discharge. One that ensures adequate support and supervision. After she left, silence settled heavy between them. You're doing it again, Nia said quietly. Doing what? Erasing me. Making decisions like I don't exist. Like my 6 years of keeping them alive mean nothing because you have better resources. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing, Caleb? She turned to face him fully. You swoop in, sign some papers, and suddenly the hospital staff are treating you like the responsible parent while I'm the one who needs supervision. Do you know how that feels? His jaw tightened. I'm trying to make sure you don't die taking care of our children alone. Our children. You've known about them for less than a day. And whose fault is that? The words hung between them, sharp and accusatory. Nia felt the anger rise, hot and defensive, but before she could respond, small voices interrupted from the doorway. Stop. Both adults turned. Amara and Zane stood there, juice boxes forgotten in their hands. Their faces were serious, far too serious for 6-year-olds. We don't want fighting, Zane said. Amara walked into the room, her small frame somehow commanding attention. We want honesty. No more lies. No more pretending. We're not lying, Nia started. You're not telling the whole truth either, Amara interrupted. You're both scared and angry and you're using big words to hide it. The observation was devastating in its accuracy. Zane moved to stand beside his sister. You, he pointed at Caleb, are our dad but you don't know us yet. And you, he pointed at Nia, need help but you're scared to take it because you think it means losing us. Both adults stared at the children. We're not stupid, Amara said. We know Mommy works too much because she has to. We know she's tired all the time. We know the lights got turned off last month and she told us it was an adventure to use candles. Nia's throat constricted. And we know you have money, Zane said to Caleb. Mommy looked you up on her phone once. We saw. You have a big building with your name on it. So here's what we want, Amara continued. We want Mommy to get better. We want to stay in our home because it's ours. And we want you, she looked at Caleb, to help without making Mommy disappear. Caleb crouched down. I'm not trying to make her disappear. Then stop acting like you know better just because you have more money, Zane said bluntly. Mommy knows us. You don't. Not yet. You're right, Caleb said quietly. I don't know you yet. But I want to. And I want to help in a way that respects your mother. Then ask her what she needs, Amara said. Don't tell her. Ask. The children looked at Nia, waiting. The adults in the room had been outmaneuvered by 2 6-year-olds demanding the baseline of human decency. Nia took a shaky breath. I need medical bills covered. I need time off work without losing my job. I need someone to help with the twins while I recover without taking them away from me. Caleb nodded slowly. Done. What else? I need you to understand that money doesn't equal parenting. If you want to be their father, you have to show up. Not just with your wallet. With your time. Your patience. Your presence. I can do that. And I need, her voice cracked slightly, I need you to not use your family's power against me ever again. No lawyers. No threats. No taking them because you can. Never, Caleb said firmly. That's not negotiable. My mother will never be allowed near you or them. I promise you that. Promises are just words, Amara reminded him. Then I'll prove it with actions. Caleb looked at all three of them. Whatever it takes. However long it takes. The twins exchanged a glance, some silent communication passing between them. Then Zane nodded. Okay. But we're watching. We're always watching, Amara added. And for the first time since waking up, Nia felt something other than fear. Not trust. Not yet. But maybe the possibility of it. Built not on legal authority or financial power, but on the simple demand from two children that the adults in their lives finally be honest. The discharge paperwork came the next morning. Nia signed her name on 8 different forms while Caleb stood near the window, watching the twins color at a small table a nurse had brought in. They were drawing their apartment, Amara explained. So he knows where we live. The casual acceptance in her voice made something in Caleb's chest tighten. They had already decided he was staying in their lives. Not because the adults had agreed, but because children operated on a logic that was simpler and more demanding than adult negotiation. You're our dad. You said you'd stay. So you stay. Ms. Brooks, the nurse said gently, the doctor wants to see you once more before you go. Just a final check. After Nia left with the nurse, Caleb moved closer to the table. The twins kept coloring, but he felt their attention shift to him. They were always watching, just as they had promised. Can I see? He asked. Amara slid the paper toward him. Their building was rendered in crayon, lopsided but detailed. 4 floors. Fire escape on the side. A bodega on the corner with a green awning. Our room is on the 3rd floor, she said, pointing. The window with the star stickers. We put those up so we could find our way home if we got lost, Zane added. Mommy said everyone needs a way to find home. Caleb studied the drawing, memorizing details. That's smart. Are you going to visit us there? Amara asked. The question was carefully neutral, but her crayon had stopped moving. Yes. If that's okay with you and your mother. What if we say it's not okay? Zane looked up, his green eyes direct. What if we say we don't want you to come? The question landed with unexpected weight. Caleb set the drawing down carefully. Then I wouldn't come. Not until you were ready. Zane tilted his head, considering. Even though you're our dad. Even though you could probably make us with laws and stuff. Even though. Caleb crouched beside the table. Being your father legally means I have responsibilities to you. But being your dad, really being your dad, is something I have to earn. You get to decide if and when I've earned it. Amara exchanged a glance with her brother. Adults don't usually say things like that. Maybe they should. Our friend Marcus has a dad who comes sometimes, Zane said. He brings presents and says he'll come to the next birthday, but he never does. Marcus pretends it doesn't hurt, but it does. I'm not going to be that dad, Caleb said. How do we know? Amara's voice was small. How do we know you won't get tired of us? Mommy says we're a lot of work. You are, Caleb agreed, and saw surprise flicker across their faces. You're a lot of work because people are a lot of work. Relationships take effort and time and showing up even when it's hard. But you're worth the work. You've always been worth it. I just didn't know you existed. Why didn't Mommy tell you about us? Zane asked. The question was inevitable. Caleb chose his words carefully. Your mother had reasons. Good reasons. And it's not my place to explain them. That's between her and you when you're ready to ask her. We already know some of it, Amara said quietly. We heard you both talking. About the mean grandmother who wanted to take us away. Caleb's hands tightened. That will never happen. I promise you that. But she's your mom, Zane said, confused. Don't you have to do what she says? No. Not when she's wrong. Not when it means hurting people I care about. Do you care about us? Amara's crayon was still frozen over the paper. Even though you just met us. The question was so earnest, so hopeful and terrified at once, that Caleb felt something crack open in his chest. Yes. I know that probably sounds strange because we're still getting to know each other, but yes. You're my children. That means something to me. More than money? Zane asked. More than anything. The twins looked at each other again, having one of their silent conversations. Then Amara nodded. Okay. You can visit. But you have to follow rules. What rules? You have to call before you come. You have to bring groceries if Mommy says yes. You have to play with us, not just watch us. And you have to tell the truth. Always. Even if it's hard. I can do that, Caleb said. And one more thing, Zane added. You can't make Mommy cry again. If you do, we'll be mad at you. Really mad. Fair enough. Amara picked up her crayon again, adding a figure to the drawing. She gave it dark hair and green eyes. That's you, she said. Standing outside. Because you're not inside yet. But maybe you will be. The metaphor was almost painfully clear. He was outside their life looking in. Invited to approach but not yet admitted. Acknowledged but not yet accepted. The door was cracked open, but whether it opened further depended entirely on his actions. Nia returned looking exhausted but steadier. The nurse wheeled in a chair. Hospital policy, she explained. We will everyone out. I'll bring the car around, Caleb said. You don't have to, Nia started. I know. But I'd like to. If that's okay. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. The twins each took one of her hands as she sat. Caleb headed for the parking garage, the twins' drawing folded carefully in his pocket. A building with star stickers in the window. A home he had never seen where his children had grown up without him. A life that had existed in parallel to his own, invisible until a phone call in the middle of the night had made it impossible to ignore. When he pulled up to the hospital entrance, the twins were already outside, flanking their mother like small guards. They climbed into his car, their eyes wide as they took in the leather seats and electronic dashboard. "It's fancy," Zane observed. "It's just a car," Caleb said. "No," Amara corrected. "It's a car that costs more than our apartment probably. But that's okay. We're not mad about it. We just noticed things." They noticed everything. Every inconsistency. Every empty promise. Every moment an adult chose convenience over truth. They had been forced to become observers of the adult world because the adult world had failed to protect them from its complexities. The address Nia gave led to a neighborhood Caleb had driven past but never through. Buildings with laundry strung between fire escapes. Bodegas with security cameras. Children playing on sidewalks because there were no parks nearby. He parked in front of the building from the drawing. The star stickers glinted in the third-floor window. "This is us," Nia said quietly. Caleb looked up at the building, then at the woman beside him who had raised their children in a place he had never known existed in his city. Who had chosen this neighborhood, this life, this struggle, because it was safer than staying in his world. "Can I help you inside?" he asked. The twins were already out of the car, carrying their small bags. Nia moved slowly, still weak. "Yes," she said finally. "But then you leave. We need time. Just us." "I understand." He walked them to the third floor, the stairs narrow and creaking. Their apartment was small but clean. Evidence of love everywhere, children's artwork taped to walls, books stacked neatly, photos of the twins at various ages. No photos of him. "Thank you," Nia said at the door. "For the ride. For the hospital bills. For listening." "I'll call before I visit," Caleb said. Like the twins requested. "Good." Her hand was on the doorknob. "Caleb, we're not a family yet. We're four people trying to figure out how to be in each other's lives without destroying each other. That's going to take time." "I have time," he said. "However long it takes." She nodded and closed the door softly. Caleb stood in the hallway for a moment, then descended the stairs. Outside, children played on the sidewalk. He had passed this building hundreds of times, never knowing his own children lived behind one of those windows with star stickers. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We put your number in Mommy's phone. This is Amara. We're watching you, remember." He smiled despite himself. Typed back, "I remember." The response came quickly, "Good." Caleb called on Tuesday at exactly the time he had promised. Not 5 minutes early. Not late. Exactly when he said he would. "It's Caleb," he said when Nia answered. "Is now still a good time to talk about this weekend?" "Yes." Her voice was guarded but not hostile. Progress, he reminded himself, was measured in millimeters. "I'd like to take the twins to the park on Saturday. 2 hours. I'll bring lunch. You're welcome to come or not, whichever makes you more comfortable." "Which park?" "The one near you. With the blue playground equipment." Zane mentioned it. There was a pause. He could hear her surprise that he had remembered, that he had chosen their neighborhood instead of somewhere expensive and unfamiliar. "Okay. I'll come this time. To observe." "That's fair." And Caleb? Lunch means sandwiches from the deli, not catering from some five-star restaurant. They like turkey and cheese. No mayo on Zane's. Got it. Turkey and cheese. No mayo on Zane's. After they hung up, he made a note in his phone. He had started keeping notes. Small details that mattered. Amara liked grape juice but Zane preferred apple. They both hated broccoli but would eat green beans. Bedtime was 8 o'clock on school nights, 8:30 on weekends. Their favorite show was about talking animals solving mysteries. His assistant had looked confused when he started blocking out Saturday mornings indefinitely. You have the investors' brunch, she reminded him. It's been on the calendar for months. Cancel it. Sir. I have a prior commitment. He did not explain further. Did not justify. Simply redirected his time to where it actually mattered. The financial team at the hospital had been easier to handle. He had walked in prepared for negotiation and found a system that defaulted immediately to his requests. Nia's bills were cleared within 48 hours. He set up a medical account in her name, funding it quietly, ensuring she would never have to choose between her health and her children's needs again. But he did not tell her. Not yet. Because he was learning that help announced was often help designed for recognition. Real support was quiet, consistent, and asked nothing in return. Saturday came cold and bright. He arrived at the park with sandwiches in a paper bag, wearing jeans instead of his usual tailored slacks. The twins spotted him from the swings and came running. You came, Amara said, slightly breathless. I said I would. Lots of people say things, Zane observed, but then he smiled. But you did come. Nia watched from a bench, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Caleb caught her eye and nodded. She nodded back. Small acknowledgments building into something that might eventually resemble trust. Push me, Zane demanded, already running back to the swings. Caleb pushed. For 20 minutes, he just pushed the swings, listened to their laughter, learned the rhythm of their play. No phones. No distractions. Just presence. Later, eating sandwiches on the grass, Amara asked, Do you have other kids? No. Just you two. Do you want more? I haven't thought about it. Right now, I'm focused on being a good father to the children I have. Zane studied him. Are you good at it yet? I don't know, Caleb admitted. You'd have to tell me. You're getting better, Amara said generously. But you still stand weird at the playground. Like you're scared to touch things. Nia laughed from the bench, quickly covering it with a cough. Caleb found himself smiling. Okay, I'll work on that. The weeks accumulated into a routine. Every Saturday. Then Thursday evenings too, helping with homework at their kitchen table. He learned to navigate their neighborhood, learned which bodega had the best prices, learned the names of their neighbors who looked out for them. His office noticed the changes. Meetings that ran late were now cut short. Business dinners were declined. When his COO asked about his sudden unavailability, Caleb said simply, I have family obligations. The word family felt foreign in his mouth but less so each time he said it. A photo appeared in a business magazine. Caleb Hartwell spotted at a public park in Brooklyn with 2 children, sources say they're his previously unknown twins. The article speculated about secret families and image rehabilitation. His PR team panicked. No statement, he told them. My children are not a scandal to be managed. They're my children. End of discussion. His mother called. Once. He let it go to voicemail. Deleted it without listening. Then blocked the number. Some bridges were not worth rebuilding. Therapy came next. Not for the twins, though Nia had already found them a counselor who specialized in helping children process complex family dynamics. This was for him and Nia together, sitting in uncomfortable chairs in an office that smelled like lavender, trying to navigate the space between co-parents and strangers. You're angry, the therapist observed, looking at Nia. Yes. And you're guilty, looking at Caleb. Yes. Good. Those are honest starting points. Now we work on what comes after anger and guilt. Responsibility. Repair. Setting boundaries that protect everyone, especially the children. It was hard. Some sessions ended with Nia in tears, Caleb silent and wrecked. Some sessions were productive. Most were somewhere in between. But they kept showing up. Because the twins were watching. One Thursday evening, while helping Zane with math homework, Caleb's phone rang. Business emergency. The kind that used to send him running back to the office immediately. He declined the call. You can go, Nia said from the kitchen. If you need to. I don't. He turned back to Zane. Okay, so if you have 8 apples and give away 3, how many are left? 5, Zane said, then paused. Are you really staying? I'm really staying. Zane nodded, satisfied, and returned to his worksheet. Such a small moment. So unremarkable. But Caleb felt its weight. This was what showing up meant. Not the dramatic gestures. Not the expensive gifts he had been tempted to buy. Just being there when he said he would be. Choosing them over convenience. Again and again until it became truth instead of promise. Later, as he was leaving, Nia walked him to the door. Thank you, she said quietly. For the medical account. I found out about it yesterday. You weren't supposed to know about that. I know. But I do. And I'm telling you thank you, but also that it doesn't erase anything. Money helps, Caleb. It solves practical problems. But it doesn't fix what's broken between us. I know. Do you? She looked at him directly. Because I need you to understand that I'm not going to fall back in love with you just because you're being a decent father. That's not how this works. The words stung, but he nodded. I'm not expecting that. I'm just trying to be present for our children. Whatever happens between us, that's separate. Good. She softened slightly. You're doing better. The twins talk about you now. They used to avoid the subject of fathers entirely. Now they tell their friends about you. That matters. After he left, driving back to his empty penthouse, Caleb realized his life had inverted. The apartment that used to feel like an achievement now felt hollow. The office that used to energize him now felt like an obligation. The work that used to define him was just work. What mattered was a small apartment with star stickers in the window. 2 children who were learning to trust him. A woman who was teaching him that love without courage was just performance. Redemption, he was learning, was not a destination. It was showing up. Again and again. Even when it cost him everything he used to value. Especially then. 3 months after the phone call that changed everything, Caleb sat on the floor of his children's bedroom helping Zane build a castle out of cardboard boxes. Amara directed from her bed, a clipboard in hand like a tiny architect with opinions about structural integrity. "It needs more tape," she announced. "And the tower is leaning." Zane sighed dramatically. "She's very bossy." "I prefer thorough," Amara corrected. Caleb hid his smile and applied more tape. From the kitchen, he could hear Nia making dinner. She had invited him to stay. The first time she had done so without the twins asking first. Progress measured in dinner invitations. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Another message from his board requesting his attendance at an evening event. He typed back a brief decline and set the phone aside. "Important work thing?" Zane asked, watching him. "Not more important than this." Zane studied him for a moment, then returned to the castle. "Okay. Good." Such simple words. Such enormous weight. The castle was declared finished just as Nia called them for dinner. They ate at a table meant for 4 but usually set for 3. Caleb had learned where to sit, which chair was Zane's favorite, how Amara preferred her plate arranged with foods not touching. "How was school today?" Nia asked. "Marcus got in trouble for talking during reading time," Zane reported. "Again. And we started our family tree project," Amara added, then hesitated, glancing between her parents. The air shifted. Caleb set down his fork. "What kind of project?" "We have to draw our family and write about them." Amara's voice was careful. "Everyone has different kinds of families. Some have 2 moms or 2 dads or just 1 parent or grandparents. The teacher said all families count." "That's true," Nia said gently. "What do you want to put on yours?" Amara looked at Caleb. "Can we put you? Even though you weren't always there." The question was asked with such earnest concern for his feelings that Caleb had to swallow before answering. "Yes. I'd be honored to be on your family tree." "But we're going to be honest," Zane said firmly. "We're going to write that you're our dad but you didn't know about us at first because grown-up stuff happened. Is that okay?" "That's more than okay. That's the truth." After dinner, Caleb helped with dishes while Nia supervised the twins' bath time. The domesticity of it still felt surreal. 3 months ago, he had not known these children existed. Now he knew that Zane hated having his hair washed and Amara sang the same song every night while brushing her teeth. He was drying the last plate when Nia returned. "They're asking for you," she said. "Bedtime story." "Both of them?" "Both of them." He found them in their pajamas, already under covers, a book waiting on the nightstand. They had chosen the story together, a compromise reached through negotiation that apparently involved rock paper scissors. Caleb sat between their beds and read about a dragon who was afraid of flying until it had a reason to be brave. The twins listened, their eyes growing heavy. Halfway through, Amara interrupted. "Are you afraid?" she asked. "Of what?" Of being our dad. Of messing up. Caleb considered lying, offering reassurance that sounded confident. But these children had demanded honesty from the beginning. Sometimes, yes. I'm afraid I won't be good enough. That I'll make mistakes that hurt you. You will make mistakes, Zane said matter-of-factly. Everyone does. But you can say sorry and try better. Is that what Mommy taught you? Mommy says love is mostly just showing up and trying. Even when it's hard. Your mother is right. He finished the story. Kissed their foreheads. Turned off the light but left the door cracked open just how they liked it. When he returned to the living room, Nia was on the couch with tea, looking exhausted but healthier than she had 3 months ago. The dark circles under her eyes had faded. She had gained weight. Started sleeping more. They're getting attached to you, she said as he sat down. Keep the distance she still maintained between them on the couch. Is that bad? I don't know yet. She looked at him directly. You've been consistent. You've shown up. You've respected boundaries. But Caleb, 3 months is nothing compared to 6 years. I need to know you're in this for the long term. Not just until the novelty wears off or it becomes inconvenient. This isn't novelty, he said quietly. This is my life now. They're my life now. And what about me? Her voice was soft but firm. Where do I fit in your life now? Wherever you want to fit. I'm not asking for romance, Nia. I'm not asking for forgiveness I haven't earned. I'm asking to be their father and your co-parent. Whatever else happens or doesn't happen between us, that's what I'm committed to. She nodded slowly. Good. Because I'm not the same person I was 6 years ago. I'm harder now. More cautious. I won't go back to being invisible in someone else's world. I don't want you to be invisible. I want you to be exactly who you are. They sat in silence. Not comfortable yet, but no longer hostile. Just two people navigating impossible territory with only honesty and children's expectations as guides. Nia's phone rang. She glanced at it and frowned. It's the school. At this hour? She answered, her expression shifting from confusion to alarm. When? Is she okay? We'll be right there. What happened? Caleb was already standing. Amara fell on the playground during after-school care. They think her wrist might be broken. They're calling an ambulance. I'll drive. Faster than waiting. They moved in sync, no discussion needed. Nia woke Zane gently, explained quickly. Caleb carried him to the car, still half asleep. They arrived at the school as the ambulance pulled up. Amara sat on the ground, cradling her wrist, crying but trying to be brave. When she saw them, her composure broke. Mommy. Daddy. The word stopped Caleb mid-step. Daddy. She had never called him that before. Always Caleb or just you. We're here, baby, Nia said, kneeling beside her. We're both here. At the hospital, different this time, Caleb held Zane while Nia went with Amara for x-rays. They sat in the waiting room under the same harsh lights where this had all begun. Is Amara going to be okay? Zane asked quietly. Yes. She's going to be fine. Are you going to stay? Even though it's late and you probably have work tomorrow. Caleb pulled him closer. I'm staying until we know she's okay. Work can wait. Zane relaxed against him. Good. Because we need you. 4 words. Simple. Devastating. True. When Nia emerged with Amara, her wrist in a bright purple cast, the little girl was smiling despite the tears on her face. I got to pick the color, she announced. It's perfect, Caleb said. They drove home together, all 4 of them, through streets that were quieter now. Caleb carried Amara upstairs while Nia guided Zane. They tucked both children into bed again, this time working together seamlessly. Thank you, Nia said at the door. For staying. For being here. Where else would I be? She smiled, tentative but real. I don't know. But I'm glad you're here. After he left, driving through the early morning darkness, Caleb realized he no longer measured his life in acquisitions and board meetings. He measured it in bedtime stories and broken wrists and a 6-year-old finally calling him daddy. His phone buzzed with messages he would answer tomorrow. Or never. Because some things were more important than being important. He had spent years building an empire. But these 4 people who were teaching him what it meant to actually show up, this was the only thing he had ever built that truly mattered. And he was finally learning that power was worthless compared to the privilege of being trusted with someone's heart.